Hey everybody, it's Justin from OneIRC.com coming at you today with a closer look at our project What the Front Wheel Drive, the world's first front wheel drive Traxxas Slash. For a body, we chose the Protoform PFRX. It's the closest to an import body that we could come. It's normally found on the Traxxas Rally or also fits the Slash 4x4, but the dimensions do work out for any two-wheel drive short course. Up front, we're running Proline's non-belted Hoosier drag slicks mounted on Pomona SC wheels. In the rear, you'll find the Hoosier 2.2, the front buggy size, mounted again on Pomona wheels, this time in the 2.2 buggy front size. And also a 25mm spacer on each side just to fill out the fender wells a little bit better, keep the car from looking like it's a hovercraft. Being a front-wheel drive car, you wouldn't think it would need a wheelie bar, but we use a rather long carbon fiber wheelie bar that is custom made just for this car, and that helps to prevent any weight transfer, keeps the rear from squatting and unloading the front tires, which has actually proved to be quite beneficial on this car. Pulling the shell off, we find what started as a Bandit XL5. It was the cheapest Bandit that I could find at the time new. Bought it ready to run for like 119 bucks and kept some of the suspension, threw out a lot of it, a lot of custom fabbed parts, a lot of things are prototype. Please excuse the fact that it all looks like hardware store grade aluminum, because it is, but it just shows that with a little bit of ingenuity and very little material, you can build one of these yourself. There's nothing outlandishly custom on this car. It can be replicated fairly simply. For power, we're using an 80 amp cheap, I believe it's a Ghoul RC 80 amp ESC paired with a Ghoul RC brushless motor. It's a 4-pole. I believe it's a 4300. We are running Bandit front shocks in the front, mounted to Telluride. That's right, 4x4 front arms, 4x4 front C-hubs, and a custom upper link to clear the shock. That is bent 832 rod. It's strong enough. It keeps the camber in check, so it does work. This setup had to be used because a drive shaft will not clear two-wheel drive front arms and front C-hubs. So we ended up having to go this route. We went with 32 pitch gearing just for a little extra durability. Don't want to worry about stripping a gear on a hard launch. The front bumper, again, just a piece of L-channel aluminum with a little bit of battery foam on it just to protect the bumper, keep it from collapsing in on the shell, on the bumper. The steering took a little work. Steering servo is mounted in the rear. Travels through a long rod all the way to the front. You can see the bell crank there. The bell crank's here in the front, basically in an extension of what would be a rear wheel drive, an original rear wheel drive Slash. The old school STRC kits that had the chassis extension to use a Rustler chassis. The bell cranks come out to, you can see, to the steering knuckles there. And for as little steering as this car does, the setup works just fine. It places the majority of the weight up front. The servo in the rear doesn't affect the balance as bad as I expected it to. Speaking of servos in the rear, you may be wondering why there is an extra servo. Little tiny guy there, little MG90S. That servo runs our third channel activated e-brake from our first video. You can see that this side, when it pushes out, runs a rod through a rod end on the arm and into the spokes of the wheel. And the way that the rod is designed, it also pushes the other side in the opposite direction at the same time, locking both wheels simultaneously. In the rear, we're running touring car shocks, which have very little travel. They have ultra stiff springs and 100-weight oil, but they can't really move more than about 1/8 of an inch anyway before the wheelie bar hits. They're there just to be class legal, which, frankly, I'm not even sure that this car is. It's a lot of fun to drive, and it makes pass after pass, but I will say it is not competitive with a traditional rear-wheel drive, no prep car. The car will not launch the same. It is more apt to spin the front tires than it is to launch hard. Slipper clutch adjustments can help. Throttle control is a must. Inside the transmission, we are running a hot racing spool and some experimental drive shafts. These are cut down 4x4 drive shafts. They're made of metal. I think they're GPM Racing or some Chinese knockoff thereof. So far, they've held up. They're not the quietest things on earth, but they are working. You can see that we are running a Pro-Line adjustable body mount in the front with Traxxas Rustler battery strap hold downs for body pin locators. I did that after I lost several of the thumb washers early on. I think I'd got a hold of a batch that didn't fit quite as well as I'd hoped, and they went the way of the dodo. The body post is mounted behind the shock tower to place the posts as close to the base of the windshield as possible. In the rear, we're using another Pro-Line body mount. This time we are using the thumb washers, which they tuck right in behind the spoiler. Again, forgive all of the hardware store aluminum and the rough cuts. This is really a prototype. If I could do it all again in carbon fiber, I would. But as a proof of concept, this does work. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching today. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment box below. If you haven't yet, subscribe. There will be more. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty nervous about this. I'm not great at speaking on camera, and this is my first foray, so please be kind. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.